I'd like to give a special shout out to my patrons, or patron. It means so much to me that you've been able to help out my channel. Thank you very much. Hey everybody, this is Matt from Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews, and today we are going to be doing my November recap. Before we go into the books that I've read, I'd like to go and give a little bit of a channel update. The channel now is up over 5,300 subscriptions, which is awesome. I'm always shocked at how many people are giving me views and wanting to stick around, so thank you so much for that. The Discord channel. If you haven't joined the Discord yet, check the link down below in the description. The Discord has nearly doubled. Tons of activity in there. Everyone always talking about books, what I'm reading, what you're reading, talking spoilers, and that's up now above 220 people. So that's awesome. I love hanging out with you all in there. I finally finished up my top 100 best fantasy books series. So 10 videos coming out weekly. I am so glad that I'm finally done. Not just because I like completing things, but it was hard to find, over an hour of time to record these things. And behind the scenes, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, I put a decent amount of editing work into these things. How large the videos are, they take multiple hours to be able to process the videos, multiple more hours to upload them to YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of time invested into these things and having to click a lot of buttons to get those videos to go live. So I am very thankful that those are now done. I'm still going to be doing some longer videos. It's just nice that I'm not, tied to doing them on a specific day. It'd be nicer for me able to plan them out and just do them as I want to. And I started a Patreon account, as you can see from the intro here. It is brand new. I've only advertised it just as a little post on YouTube, not even a video. So yeah, it's fun. I only have one patron so far, but it's I'm enjoying the prospect of going forward. There's a couple of cool things going along with it. In the bottom tier, it's getting your name on the screen beforehand and being able to get a special privilege in the Discord server. Beyond that, it's, the next stage up is being able to have a vote in what book I should read in the next month. I put out 5 books that I might want to read, and people choose which one. And then the last one is putting a book into a raffle, and that I'll slide the wheel and pick which one it is. So because I only have one patron, unless something changes before my TBR video tomorrow, that one person is going to be picking 2 books for me to read. So join on up if you want to actually have a say in that. And the odds are pretty good that you're going to win at least one of those things. And the last one is getting your name in the back end of a video, verbally said out loud, and a couple other cool little things, like seeing my videos a day before everybody else. Also this month I picked up my first sponsor, and so I'm very happy that Audible is now sponsoring my channel. I'm super happy about it because I love Audible. I've used them for so long. I actually reached out to Audible to see if I could get sponsored by them, because I don't want to just get, I hate plugging random sponsors that I don't really believe in, and other people do it. More power to you. That's not just for me. I'm not like looking down on anybody that does that, but I've always said, like, I would never do that. Again, it sounds like I'm like thinking bad about other people. I am very much not. But yeah, I love Audible. I've used them for like over 10 years, or maybe a little bit less, but around 10 years. And yeah, it's just awesome. And so the way that this sponsorship works is that in a lot of my videos, not all of them, but I will plug an Audible sponsorship, and essentially I'll give a link, which is audibletrial.com/Matt. And if people sign up for a free trial where they get 1 free book, or 2 if they're a Prime member, then I get a kickback. So it's great. You don't even have to like follow through on keeping the sponsorship and paying for it. Just getting the free trial will help my channel out. So if you don't have a free trial of Audible, now's the time. Check it out. You'll help me out. You'll get a free book. Check out any of the books that I've talked about here today, or any of the many, many, many thousands of other ones that are on Audible. So let us move on to the stats. So over the month of November, I read 7 books. Which is lower than my normal. I did read some pretty chunky books, but I also was very busy. If some of you may know this, but I I work in politics. I'm a chief of staff to a politician. Elections are my bread and butter, and November was the elections. And so that's a lot of time and attention going into following the election results that come out a couple times a week and doing a deep dive into the data, talking to candidates, doing everything involved in that. So all the counting is almost done, and then I will have more free time, which is great. I read about 4,200 pages, which is actually up from the previous month, 500 more than the previous month, but still down from my yearly average. I am now up to 109 books read on the year. I'll probably end up, 115, 116 or so, which is great. 100 is my goal, and I well exceeded that. I am now at over 56,000 pages for the year, so I should hit my goal of 60,000 unless something really weird happens, but I should be able to hit that goal. My average score for the year now is 3.81 out of 5, which is down from the previous year. I think there's multiple reasons for that, but hopefully I turn that around in the next year. For this month, I got 80,000 views on my YouTube channel, which is up from 78,000, so that's an all-time high for me. I also got 12,500 hours watched, which is up from 11,200, so another high for me. And my subscriptions for the month are right about 1,000, and that's down from 1,200. So that's amazing. I can't believe that I would get 100, let alone 1,000. So thank you, everybody. My top 3 videos were the last 3 that I did in my top 100 top book series. The number 1 through 10 got about 8,000, 11 through 20 got about 6,000, and 21 through 30 got about 5,000. But those are kind of growing over time, and because people watch one and then they watch a lot of the other ones, there's a big trickle effect, and so I don't know where those will end up, but yeah, kind of interesting that the top 3 were all that from that series. So now let us move into the books that I read. The first book that I read was Red Sister. This is part of the Book of the Ancestor by Mark Lawrence. I predicted that I would give it a 4 out of 5, and I ended up giving it a 3. I also predicted I'd finish it on November 3rd, and I did finish it on November 3rd. And ultimately, I was a little disappointed by this book. I didn't have the highest of hopes going into it, because I've read other Mark Lawrence books. I read Broken Empire, and I wasn't a big fan. I ended up not finishing out the series after reading 2 of the books, but I keep getting told that a lot of Mark Lawrence books, and especially his series, are very different from each other. And I heard from a lot of people that I trust their opinion on that said, Book of the Ancestor is better than some of his other series. So I was cautiously optimistic, but not super optimistic about it. But yeah, I didn't love it. I thought that the ending was nice, but it was a very long middle part that was a bit of a bore, and I never like to think of that word when I'm thinking of a book I like. That is, not a great thing. So then I read The House in the Cerulean Sea. This is not part of the series. It's a standalone by T.J. Klune. I predicted I'd give it a 2 out of 5. I had absolutely no faith that I'd like this book, and I liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I also predicted that I'd finish it on November 9th, and I finished it a day late on November 10th. And this book is going to be the best surprise of the month for me. This doesn't look like a book for me. It's like this fun, whimsical, low stakes, happy-go-lucky kind of book. And that's not the kind of books I'm into. I like dark and epic and long, and this book is the opposite of all of those things. So yeah, I'm very surprised that I liked it, and I would encourage everybody to read that book. I then read Grey Sister, part of the Books of the Ancestor. This is the next book in that series. I decided to kind of keep going along. This is by Mark Lawrence, of course. I predicted I'd give it a 4 out of 5, and I did not finish it. I actually got about 100 pages in, and I just wasn't feeling it. It went in a different direction. I just couldn't. I had that feeling that I get a lot where it's like, should I keep reading this? And I often put a book aside and say, let me take a break. And as soon as I put it aside, I had this weight off my shoulders, and it felt good. And I knew right away that I don't need to keep going. There's a million books I could read, and this does not need to be one of them. So I predicted I'd finish it on November 17th, and because I bailed out early, I finished it on November 11th. which ended up getting me an extra book in at the end that I'll talk about in just a little bit. Then I read The 5 Warrior Angels, the newest in that trilogy, the last in the trilogy, The Lonesome Crown. This is by Brian Lee Durfee, and I gave this a 5 out of 5. And it is one of the best books that I've ever read. I think it's a top 5 best fantasy books ever for me. I thought it was so good. This undoubtedly wins the award for the best fantasy book that I read this month. It's just amazing. I predicted I'd finish it on November 8th. I was a little slow because I went on a family trip to Tahoe and I didn't do a lot of reading while I was there. And so I finished this on November 12th. And man, this book just rocks. I think it came out today, actually. I got an early review copy of it, but pick up that series if you have not done so. It rocks. It is a dark, epic fantasy with amazing gray characters, this incredible religious prophecy associated with it, the biggest of biggest set pieces, crazy surprises. You're never going to be able to guess who the actual good guys are or bad guys, or if there are any, what plot progression points that we hit. It keeps you on your toes the whole time. It is action-packed, and it deserves every fantasy fan to give it a read. Then I read Gates of Fire. This is not a fantasy book. This is a historical fiction, and I'm going to be reading some of these. I'm not going to read a lot, but there's a few series I've always wanted to read, so I'm going to get through them. You're going to see some this month in December and January, and then I'll probably have a big break from them. But I wanted to get a few of these series out. I predicted that I'd give it a 5 out of 5, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. I liked it a lot. Just wasn't, over the moon with it, but I did like it a lot. And I predicted that I would get this done on the 26th, and this was on the 17th. This was an audiobook, so finished it way early because of that other book, Grey Sister, that I did not end up finishing. And yeah, this is awesome. This is the story of the Battle of Thermopylae. If you don't know what that is, think the movie 300 that was a very famous retelling of this. This is a really fun read where it's through the perspective of a servant in the Greek army, specifically the Spartan army. And yeah, it's so good. I love the writing style. I couldn't give it a 5 out of 5 because, a number of reasons. Check out my review. I'll put a link up there. But it just kind of, I didn't love the ending of the book. Even that's a weird thing to say because I think everybody knows the ending already. But I thought it kind of might have gone in a different direction that it didn't, and wasn't thrilled with the ending. But overall, I think it's a great book. If you have any interest in Greek history or specifically this battle, if you like the movie 300, you're going to love this. It's a great book. Then I read The Lost Metal. This is the last book in Mistborn Era 2. This is, of course, by Brandon Sanderson. I predicted that I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I had a lot of optimism that 4 out of 5 would be the highest I gave any book in this series, but Brandon Sanderson traditionally rocks the ending to his series, and I figured, man, he's got to do it again. He did not for me. I gave it a 1 out of 5. This is the worst book that I read this month. It is the worst surprise that I got this month, and I just hated every single thing about this book. I predicted I'd finish it on the 19th, and I finished it on the 20th. And yeah, just nothing about this book worked for me. I could go on. I did go on for a long time in my review. Again, I'll put a link up there so you can check it out. But yeah, I think in short, this book rushed hard this whole 𝐒𝐮𝐲 thing. And I like the 𝐒𝐮𝐲. I like the tie-ins to the 𝐒𝐮𝐲, but I like them to be slower, like a slower drip. And this was not a slow drip. What I felt like has been a slow drip up to this point, all of a sudden put the pedal to the metal, and it would just ruin so much of the build-up for me, and it kind of felt out of nowhere. There's a lot more things that I didn't like about this book, but I think that was the major one that really, really threw me off. But further, I didn't like the plot, I didn't like the characters, I didn't like anything about it, but that's the number one thing I didn't like about it, if I could pick one. Then I read Lonesome Dove. This is part of the series Lonesome Dove. This is another historical fiction book. This is by Larry McMurtry, I think that's how you say it. And I predicted a 5 out of 5, and I gave this a 5 out of 5. And I predicted I'd finish it on November 23rd, and I was very delayed with election stuff. And I finished it on November 29th. And this somehow is better than Lonesome Crown. I give this the best book that I read this month. I think it's the second best book that I've ever read in my entire life. I am not going to go into depth about this because I have to edit the video that I made on this, and I have not released it yet. So I will probably be releasing the video for this on Saturday, and I will go into all of my thoughts then. Finally, I read The Winter King. This is part of a series. I forget the name of the series, but it's the Warlord Chronicles, and this book was real good. I did not have a predicted score because I didn't think I'd get to this book, but I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was really good. Finished it yesterday. My video is just still waiting to get edited. I will release this on Friday. I have a survey up on the community tab on my YouTube channel where I said, look, I finished both these books, Lonesome Dove and Winter King, on the same day, and which one should I review first? And it looks like people picked The Winter King, so I'll be talking about that on Friday. And this is by Bernard Cornwell, who's a wonderful writer. I've read several of those books before, but it's really going to make me say I need to start reading a lot more of his because everything I've read from him is really, really good. So ultimately, I predicted overall that I would give a 4.1, but I only gave a 3.7. That 1 out of 5 score really, really brought things down for me. But otherwise, it was just a fun month. I had 2 books that were in my top 5 of all time list. I'm not going to be pessimistic about this month. This was a wonderful month, and I hope next month I get books that are as good or nearly as good as what I just read. All right, now is the last part of my update, and this is where I go over the books that were sent to me. Authors reach out to me all the time, and it's not just me, every booktuber I'm sure this happens to, and say, hey, will you read my book? And I did that multiple times, and I always hated them. I just didn't like them. And I'm sure there's some gems out there, but I just didn't want to go through that anymore. So eventually what I said, I copied the policy of Bryce over at Shelf Centered, where he says, you know what, send me the book, I will showcase it, but I might not read it. And so that's what I'm doing now. I want to help out indie authors. I wish I could do more, but this is my one little thing that I can do to maybe help out a little bit. And the first book is All Hail the Carry-On King. And this is by Thomas Godfrey. And I want to read a little bit of the back cover to you so you can see if this is for you. The words rolled off the lips of the pallid jester that washed up on the shores of Brookshire on that fateful summer evening. A jester that to all appeared dead, but nonetheless got up and made his way into town. A town on the eastern fringe of the kingdom ruled by the enigmatic and omnipotent tyrant known only as the Carry-On King. In the tavern of Brookshire, the jester meets another young jester called Isaac, who aspires to perform on the stages of the West. The jester offers him the opportunity to travel to the very court of the Carry-On King and to perform there, an opportunity that every jester's wildest dream. However, there is a quiet war that rages for the very soul of mortality, a war in which the jester is an ageless veteran, a war fought on stages with songs and jokes and stories as weapons. The Carry-On King was defied once before, and it is fated that he will be again. Isaac could end this war if he refutes the West and its foul master, but the call of the Carry-On King is strong, and many a greater man than Isaac has fallen to its temptations over the ages. The second out of 3 books that I got this month is The Great Tree, A Christmas Fable by Abel Barrett. I don't even know this is a fantasy book, but they reached out to me, and so it's got a very short back to it. It's a very small book, actually. Long ago, during more ancient times, just before Christmas, a young man with his dog was desperately searching for his long-lost brother, so that he could see their sick and dying mother one last time before she passed. The two were separated at a very young age, when one was stolen away by the Prince of Darkness. Okay, this is a fantasy book. The great tree, enormous in size, sat next to a castle on a mountaintop and was the heart of the kingdom of the wicked sorcerer. The kingdom was protected by the evil 𝐒𝐮𝐥 and his band of wolves. A small town sat at the base of the mountain in its shadow. This is the setting for an adventure story that changed Christmas forever. And the last book that I got is Flight of Fools by Sean Myers. Myers? Yeah, Myers. And it says, in this political satire about escapism, Brenzin, a hero back from exile, assembles a ragtag team in his quest to save the country. There is Masuthio, the mage. There is Jin, the thief. There is Gulen, the bard. There is Rain. Together, they scale the mountain, escape from the dragon, find the magical amulet, and return just in time for Brenson's assassination on page 9. All right, that's really funny. The others scramble. Each on their own, they struggle with the fallout of Brenson's death. Betrayed, Macilio submerges himself in a new role. Jin and Gulen struggle to escape the problems of their daily lives, crushed by their reality. Rain gets pulled into a fictional world made just for him. Flight of Fools blurs the lines between what is fantasy and what is real. It pokes holes in the page until there is nothing left to keep the real world from seeping in, and nothing left to stop the ending from reaching out to clutch your chest and squeeze. All right, so that is it. Tomorrow I will be releasing my TBR for the next month. I'll look forward to talking to you then, and as always, happy reading to you.